Welcome to the overview video for microeconomic principles here at Rutgers University, Camden. Again, my name is Professor Guy Pascal, and I'm just going to give you a quick glimpse of what the important components of week number 3 are. And in this week, we're solely looking at Chapter 5 on elasticity. What you need to know is, number one, be able to define what the price elasticity of demand is, how it's calculated, how it's interpreted, etc. Also, make sure that you understand that the calculation of the elasticity is different than the slope of the demand curve. Some students get confused thinking that the elasticity measurement is equivalent to the slope. They are not, so make sure you're aware of that. Also, when you look at a result for a price elasticity or any elasticity, make sure you're able to determine whether or not that means that it is elastic, inelastic, or unitarily inelastic. So if you were actually given an elasticity, you should be able, by looking at it, to make that determination. More importantly, also make sure that you can calculate the price elasticity and interpret the result. So we are going to be using the midpoint method, so make sure you're comfortable with the midpoint method. And also, importantly, to realize that if you have a demand curve or any curve that is a straight line, that the elasticity measure depends upon your location on that particular curve. So make sure you remember that the elasticity varies along a straight line, demand curve or a supply curve. And also, a very important component is understanding the relationship between elasticity and total revenue. If you know, for example, what the price elasticity of demand is, you should be able to make a determination of if you're trying to increase total revenue. Given the elasticity, you should know how to either lower or increase the price in order to meet the goal of increasing revenue. Also, understand the determinants of price elasticity of demand. For example, the availability of substitutes will impact the elasticity. If there aren't readily available substitutes, the demand will be inelastic because you cannot substitute away to another product. That's important. Also, how unimportant that particular item is in terms of your total budget. If you don't spend a lot of money on a particular item, you will be less responsive to change prices. Whereas if you spend quite a bit of your income, for example, on housing has a tendency to be more responsive to changes in price the more of your income you spend on that particular product. And also the component of time, that people, given enough time, can adjust their purchasing patterns to higher prices of a particular item. So in general, what occurs over short periods of time, items have a tendency to be inelastic, but over long periods of time, they have a tendency to be more elastic. Also, we're going to go over some other elasticities. The income elasticity, which measures how responsive quantity demanded is to changes in income, and this is used to determine whether or not a good is a normal or an inferior good. Also, the cross-price elasticity, which measures how responsive quantity demanded is to a change in the price of another item. For example, if Pepsi were to change their price, how it impacts the quantity demanded of Coca-Cola. So if you have related items, a change in the price of a related item gives us an indication of whether or not these goods are substitutes or they are complementary goods for one another. So make sure you realize that the cross-price elasticity is measuring, for example, the change in price A and how that impacts the quantity demanded of good D. And finally, the price elasticity of supply. Make sure you're comfortable calculating and interpreting the price elasticity of supply.